Hello, my name is Lina Levein. I am 21 years old and I study at Boston University where I major in journalism and I minor in Spanish. I'm really interested in editorial work and photography, especially. I have done many different projects and with photography, but one of my favorites was taking photographs outside of an abortion clinic in Louisville, Kentucky. It is actually the last clinic still open in the state, so it's a very important clinic. And I took photos of the protesters who were standing outside of the building, and they even tried to make me come to on their side and protest with them, which was a really challenging but also interesting thing to kind of weave around. I love talking about women's rights issues because I think it's really important, especially for younger women, to speak out and change the system as much as they can. And I wanted to thank you, Stephanie, for having me today. And one thing that I hope to happen in the US is a little bit more peace because the last few years have been nothing like peace, the opposite of peace. And so I hope that there's a little glimmer of hope this year. Yeah.
Do you really believe that Trump could win again?
The thing is, when he first ran for president, everyone who was opposed to him was like, he's definitely not winning. There's no way he can win. There's no way that so many Americans could think this person is right for office. And of course, he won. So it's so hard to know where everyone stands on like their point of views regarding him, because it's so radical now regarding like his side of politics. And so like I just remember having this conversation with my dad the night before the results came out, and he was like, I promise you he's not going to win. He's not going to win. There's no way. I know he's not going to win. And then we woke up the next morning. All of our friends stayed home from work because they were just so depressed. My dad stayed home from work, and there was just like this fog above at least my community, because my community is very liberal, actually. Not it's a very liberal area in Louisville. And it just, everyone I talked to was like, did you hear? It's devastating. And it's just,
Yeah, it was a
yeah,
very narrow victory of
it
Biden.
was.
And
Yeah.
so the next election will be November 24, I think. And probably Biden has to step down before because of health issues. And then Kamala Harris would step in. What do you think about her as a USA
I
girl?
actually talked to my roommate about this last night, because I was like, I don't really know a lot about where she stands, or I know where she stands on politics. She's very, very left. Like, she's very liberal. And I really appreciate that she's the first woman in office and a person of color. And when she won, I honestly I voted for her just because of those things. I personally think she is a little bit too left, which I have also opinion about like the spectrum of America right now, and why it's like become so aggressive and
Mm.
radical. But for me, I wouldn't say I'm in the middle exactly. I'm definitely more left, and I am very liberal. But she's very, very liberal, and I
You
don't
say
think.
always you say always liberal, you know. Liberal in Europe, it means it's an it's you say liberal for people that are very liberal with economics, you know, neoliberal.
Yeah,
And so we would not say that liberal is left wing, but in the US, liberal means left wing.
it does.
Okay,
It's more liberal left, conservative right.
okay.
And typically it's divided by like, well, I can't say this is 100%, but typically the younger generation, my generation, is more left, liberal. And then the older generation who come from money, who are trying to save their money, are more conservative because they want to keep the old ways of America. That's how I see it.
But
And
I
a lot of
heard
my
that
friends see it.
Kamala Harris was a tough cookie
She
in her.
is. And that's what I was going to get to is, so when my roommate and I were talking about this last night, she was saying how, she was like, I don't know if I particularly like how she handles things and how she speaks on things. And then she was like, but at the same time, she's a woman in politics. She needs to be aggressive to be heard. And we sat there for a second thinking about that, because a lot of people don't like her because of how she like presents herself. But the thing is, she needs to be how she is to get through this time. So it was really interesting, actually, because I hadn't even thought about that before I was talking to my roommate about it last night.
But she's also, when I saw the ceremony of the taking over the presidency, this celebration they had, I was so surprised about the speech of both of them, Biden and Harris. It was so religious. We're not used to that in Europe. How do you feel about all this, like, in God we trust, and I mean the young generation? How you feel about that?
It's hard as I would call myself an atheist, even though I grew up around all sorts of religion. My dad's Jewish, my mom's Christian, and we celebrate everything in our house. But I don't particularly feel close to any certain religion. So when I hear those speeches and how like God, I mean, the thing is, like, America's built on religion, like how religion is intertwined with politics. I know, like it says, like, church and state shouldn't mix, but like God is in everything, like that America's built on, like the Constitution, whatever, like it's God is in it. So I think when politicians use God and like praise God in their speeches, I think it's more to relate to people, especially because America is very, like, the most of America is very religious, and so I think it's a way to bring in more viewers and followers. Like the incident with Trump that I was talking to you about, where he held up a Bible. The guy is not religious
No,
particularly. Like
no.
he doesn't, none of his
Yeah.
actions, like, none of them parallel to religion. But he held up a Bible, and from then on, people are like, he's a great Christian, he's a man of God. And that to me is just, I honestly would call it fake news, because
Yeah.
I just think politicians use it as a way to like step up, rather than like a legitimate way to like show what they believe. That makes
I mean,
sense.
you are a student, and do you think that, I mean, and you're in Boston. Boston is an important city, but do you think the problem that the U.S. is facing right now, as well with violence and yeah, sort of ignorance, with this conspiracy theories and stuff? So many supporters, no, so many people that believe that Gates is injecting us with the vaccines, chips, and stuff like this. Does it have to do with the huge difference of education in cities and on the land side, on the countryside somehow? Because the biggest part of America is countryside. I mean, most of the people live on the countryside, no?
Yeah, so that's actually really interesting, because I have two point of views about this. So in America, I would definitely say that a huge part of it is the lack of education for most areas. Like, for example, for Kentucky, Louisville is very liberal, or left. And so our city is blue, but the state as a whole is red, which is Republican, because other
That's
than
funny that red is the
yeah,
Republic.
yeah. So so our city, Louisville and Lexington, are the two biggest cities in Kentucky, and they're blue. And then everywhere around, like the Appalachia and um, I can't even tell you the other cities to be honest, but they're all like very out in fields, secluded, and those areas lack education.
Mm.
And that's, I don't know, that's like the only thing I can relate to it. But
Yeah.
also, so my mom's from Bulgaria, so we go there all the time. Like every summer we're there. And it was just, this was a funny thing to like think about. But so I had a tennis coach there, and this is not even like a singular case, this is just one that I thought was like, it was just in my face. But I had a tennis coach, and my brother wanted to play tennis over the summer, so we went to find him. And my mom was like, so how has your job been since COVID, like has everything been okay? And he was like, oh, like those planes are just dropping, like sprinkling the disease all over us, like fully serious. This wasn't even like, he wasn't kidding or anything, he was dead serious. And it's just like people, and the thing is, Bulgaria's, the economy, it's at the lowest of lows for economy in Europe. I'm pretty sure it is the lowest in all of Europe. So just people, where there is lack of education, there is just, I don't know. It's so frustrating to talk about because I can't understand how people actually believe in all of these conspiracy theories. I guess in like, because Bulgaria was communist, that everyone's on edge because they don't know what to believe. But it's just, yeah, it was just a funny comparison to see
Yes.
like here versus there.
Yeah, and you work as a photographer as well, and you
Mm-hmm.
did a story about abortion. That's another subject that's still so important in the US, and it's like guns and abortion. It's like um, I mean, abortion really splits. I think the Democrats, not all of them are in favor of abortion, but most of them, no, I think. And the Republicans are completely against it. Why do you think, is it the religion that makes people think that abortion really is the biggest sin on earth, or?
I honestly think it is, because it's it's just when it comes to pro-choice, Republicans, and that's the thing, it's hard to group like all Republicans, all Democrats, because people do meet in the middle. And there are a lot of people like who are Republicans who don't believe in pro-choice. And it's just it varies. But um so I think it does have a lot to do with religion, because it's the only way they can justify their beliefs. Like there's no, like physically, for, I don't know, like they're like, it's a human, but it's not. Scientifically, it's not a human yet. And so they just, they kind of over exaggerate the Bible and make it something it's not. Um so I have a story about that. Actually, I think I might have already told you about this farmer who came to a birthday party that I went to, like a
Mhm.
kid's birthday
Yeah,
party. Did I tell you that?
yeah.
Oh, okay. But it just, when you meet those kinds of people, especially men who think that they have any right to speak to a woman in that way, um, it's just, I don't know, it's almost like harmful to me, because I know people who have gone through abortions, and I know people who have gone through sexual abuse, and it's just, there's no way a man, or just a man outside of that situation, can feel what that person feels and has felt in the past. So it's just, it's crazy to me that men are still making the judgment call about these sort of laws. And that's why when I was reading your questions, like I would love to have a female president. I honestly don't know what would happen. And I think she would get a lot of criticism because obviously, like, Kamala Harris has gotten a ton of criticism, more so than a man. But I do think that we could benefit a lot, especially women could benefit a lot in this country from a female president.
Is she against abortion? I don't know.
No. Oh,
She's in
again,
favor.
no. She's pro-choice.
Okay, okay. So if you would be to finish, if you would be president of the United States, what would you change?
Oh my gosh. um, I would put I wouldn't ban guns, but I would put very, very, very strict guidelines on who can own a gun, how old you have to be, mental illness, like very thorough background checks on the person, um, including like authorities, so police. They also have to be. Also have to have a very thorough background check. Abortion wise, always pro-choice, always. No matter the circumstance, always pro-choice, so women don't have to feel the need to hide and take care of that in just like unsafe ways. So always pro-choice. Sorry. um
What about health system? What would you change?
I There's a major gap in that also. I would really like to level out the healthcare system because it is so ridiculously expensive here. So many people like abortions, like they just they try and solve physical issues in unsafe ways, and it just leads to even bigger issues. So that's very important. That's very important to deal with. I'm trying to think what else I would do.
That's already a lot. let's
Yeah,
let's
yeah,
let's finish there. It's already a lot. If
yeah,
these three issues would be handled in a good way, America would be safer for sure.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
Hmm.
let's hope that that people get calmed down a little bit. It seems they seem to be all very nervous. In it seems like there is a kind of, but not just in the US. This way of thinking. It is in the UK. You have it in the UK. You have it in every country. In Germany, we have the Querdenker and others that want the state. They want like a kind of anarchy or whatever they want, but it's really a dangerous time for democracy, really. So
Yeah,
we have to keep it
it's
together.
also strange because it's the spectrum of politics, like usually it's kind of, it levels out and the scale is pretty balanced, but right now it's just the left is the most left it's ever been and the right is the most right it's ever been. And I think that's why we see so much aggression and radicalism, is because of, like, it's so contrasting right now. And I can't explain it. I I'm guessing it started with Trump in office, but it's just, I don't know. And it's also become kind of a personality for people more than a political view. Um like, I know my mom is so passionate about, like, she only watches CNN because Fox News is known to be Republican and CNN is more liberal, but or Democrat, sorry. And which I also don't believe. I honestly don't even trust the American news sources. Like, get all my information pretty much from BBC. But
Interesting.
it's, yeah, no, and honestly, at first when Trump won, I or no, yeah, I listened to my parents and I was like, I'm only going to listen to CNN. And then my boyfriend, who is from England, was like, Lena, can you just trust a news source? Whether it's Fox News or CNN, like,
Yeah.
you don't know that the information is 100% real, because there's bias. And I was like, okay,
Wow, you're so right. So I started only really getting my information from BBC, and it's way more neutral than
Yeah.
all the other information I was getting from American news sources. So about regarding news sources, I've changed a lot because I wouldn't say my parents brainwashed me, because I think they helped me form my opinion now, but I could never just watch one news source and be satisfied.
Okay. Well, it's
Yeah.
really nice to talk to you. And yeah, I
I
mean,
hope that
it's
was
your
helpful.
generation that's going to save America. So you need also Fridays for Future and all this. You heard
Yeah.
about Fridays for Future?
Oh,
You
no, I
know,
haven't.
it's a
No.
climate movement here in Europe from Greta Thunberg from Sweden. You
Oh,
heard about her?
okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I know
Yeah,
her.
you know, the young people have to go on the streets. I think that's the only way. That's the
Yeah.
only way
Yeah.
to save the planet. Big, big hug to the US, and we keep
Oh,
in touch. Bye.
bye.